The Battle off Texel, also known as the Action off Texel or the Action of 17 October 1914, was a naval battle off the coast of the Dutch island of Texel during the First World War, where a British squadron consisting of 1 light cruiser and 4 destroyers on a routine patrol encountered the remnants of the German 7th Half Flotilla of torpedo boats, which was en route to the British coast on a mission to lay minefields. The British forces attacked and sank the German flotilla of 4 torpedo boats. Outgunned, the German force attempted to flee and then fought a desperate and ineffective action against the British force. The battle resulted in the loss of the German torpedo boat squadron and prevented the mining of busy shipping lanes, such as the mouth of the River Thames. The British had few casualties and little damage to the vessels. The outcome of the battle also greatly influenced the tactics and deployments of the remaining German torpedo boat flotillas in the North Sea area. The loss greatly shook the faith of the commanders in the effectiveness of the force. Background: after the opening naval battle of Heligoland Bight, the German High Seas Fleet was ordered to avoid confrontations with larger opposing forces, to avoid costly and demoralizing reverses. Apart from occasional German raids, the North Sea was dominated by the Royal Navy, which regularly patrolled the area, although German light forces operated regularly in North Sea. At 1350 on the 17th of October 1914, a routine patrol by the 3rd Destroyer Flotilla consisting of the light cruiser HMS Undaunted and 4 Laforet-class destroyers HMS Lennox, Lance, Loyal and Legion, was cruising off the island of Texel when they encountered a waiting German squadron of torpedo boats, comprising the remaining vessels of the 7th Half Flotilla SMS S-115, S-117, S-118. The German ships made no hostile move British ships, nor did they try to flee the scene, and it was assumed by the British that they had mistaken the British ships for friendly vessels. The German flotilla had been sent out of the Ems River to mine the southern coast of Britain, including the mouth of the Thames, and had been intercepted before reaching its objective. The British squadron outgunned the German 7th Half Flotilla. The Undaunted, an Arethusa-class light cruiser, was armed with 2 BL 6-inch Mk12 naval guns and 7 QF 4-inch Mkv naval guns, in single mounts and 8 torpedo tubes. Undaunted was experimentally armed with a pair of 2-pounder anti-aircraft guns, something most of her class lacked, and at best speed could make 28.5 knots. The 4 Laforet-class destroyers were armed with 2 torpedo tubes, 3 4-inch guns and a 2-pounder gun. The destroyers were slightly faster than the cruiser and could make about 29 knots at full power. The German vessels were inferior to the British in other areas. The 7th Half Flotilla was composed of aging Gross's torpedo boot 1898 class and had been completed in 1904. The German boats were nearly equal in speed to the British at 28 knots. Each of the German vessels was armed with 350mm guns that were of shorter range and throw weight than the British guns. The biggest danger to the British squadron was the 3 450mm torpedo tubes carried by each of the German boats, with 5 torpedoes per boat. Battle. Upon closer approach, the German vessels realized the nearby vessels were British and scattered, while Undaunted, which was closer to the Germans than the destroyers, opened fire on the nearest torpedo boat. This German vessel managed to dodge the fire from Undaunted by changing course but lost speed, and the British force caught up. To protect Undaunted from torpedo attack and to destroy the Germans as quickly as possible, Fox ordered the squadron to divide. Lance and Lennox chased S-115 and S-119 as Legion and Loyal pursued S-117 and S-118. Fire from Legion, Loyal and Undaunted damaged S-118 so badly that its bridge was blown off the deck, sinking her at 15:17. Lance and Lennox engaged S-115, disabling her steering gear and causing the German vessel to circle. Lennox's fire was so effective that the bridge of S-115 was also destroyed, but the German torpedo boat did not strike her colors. The two central boats in the German flotilla, S-117 and the flotilla leader S-119, tried to hit Undaunted with torpedoes. Despite the torpedoes, Undaunted outmaneuvered the German boats and remained unscathed. When Legion and Loyal had finished off S-118, they came to Undaunted's aid and engaged its two attackers. Legion attacked S-117, but it fired its last three torpedoes and continued to engage with gunfire. Legion pulverized S-117, damaging her steering mechanism, which forced her to circle before she was sunk at 15:30. At the same time, Lance and Lennox had damaged S-115 to the point where only one of the destroyers was needed. Lance joined Loyal in bombarding S-119 with lyddite shells. S-119 managed to fire a torpedo run at Lance and hit the destroyer amidships, but the torpedo failed to detonate. S-119 was sunk at 15:35 by gunfire from Lance and Loyal, taking the German flotilla commander down with it. S-115 stayed afloat despite constant attacks from Lennox, which sent a boarding party, who found a wreck with only one German on board, who happily surrendered. 30 members of the crew were eventually rescued from the sea by the British vessels. The action ended at 16:30, with gunfire from Undaunted finishing off the abandoned hulk of S-115. Aftermath analysis: the battle was seen as a great boost of morale for the British, as 2 days previous they had lost the cruiser HMS Hawke to a U-boat. The effect on British morale the battle had is reflected in its fictionalized and nationalistic inclusion in the 1915 dime novel The Boy Allies, Under Two Flags, by Robert L. Drake. Some controversy arose in Germany from the battle, because the German hospital ship Ophelia, which had been sent out to rescue survivors from the sunken boats, was seized by the British for violating the Hague Convention rules on the use of hospital ships. The loss of a squadron of German torpedo boats led to a drastic change in tactics in the English Channel and along the coast of Flanders. There were few sorties into the Channel, and the torpedo boat force was relegated to coastal patrol and rescuing downed pilots. The British received a bonus on the 30th of November, when a British fishing trawler pulled up the seal chest thrown off S-119 by Captain Thiele. The chest contained a German codebook used by the German light forces stationed on the coast, allowing the British to decipher German communications for long afterwards. Casualties: the 4 ships of the German 7th Half Flotilla were sunk by Harwich force and over 200 sailors were killed, including the commanding officer. Despite the odds, no German vessel struck her colors and the flotilla fought to the end. Only 4 British sailors were wounded, along with superficial damage to 3 of the destroyers. Legion had 1 4-pound shell hit and 1 man was wounded by machine gun fire. Loyal was hit twice and had 3 or 4 men wounded as a result. Lance had superficial machine gun damage and the other vessels were unscathed. 31 German sailors were rescued from the water and the sinking ships and taken prisoner. A captured officer died of wounds soon after. 2 more German sailors were later rescued by a neutral vessel. Order of battle: Royal Navy HMS Undaunted, light cruiser, flagship; HMS Lennox, destroyer; HMS Lance, destroyer; HMS Loyal, destroyer; HMS Legion, destroyer; German Navy SMSS-119 torpedo boat, flagship, SMSS-118 torpedo boat, SMSS-117 torpedo boat, SMSS-115 torpedo boat.